Well, the slide or the question at the bottom of the slide is where we left off in class, which is, I asked you to go read that article by Michael Porter on what is strategy really. And so now I ask you, according to Porter, what is strategy? And it's not that Porter disagrees with what our textbook says and its definition, it's that he puts a different point on it, and frankly, one that I think is very useful and one that we're going to go back to many times in the course, particularly during the BSG simulation. Strategy to Porter is position, trade-off, fit. Position is what are you doing that generates value for the customer. So if we were to say, what is Amazon's position? I would say it is to be the world's leading online retailer. Okay, so that's its position. Well, what are the trade-offs that are inherent in that? There are a couple. One gets the great duh award, but thus far Amazon hasn't built any retail stores for people to walk into, which means Amazon can't do instant gratification, which is to say there's a trade-off. Although obviously Amazon is trying to narrow that gap of gratification, but right now as a trade-off it doesn't do instant gratification. So the position is what it does. The trade-off is by default what it doesn't do. And then you get the idea of fit, which is how does the company well engineer its processes such that they go together. And the simplest level of fit, Porter puts terminology to it, and that's nice, but what I want you to think of is there's the non-contradictory fit and there is the mutually reinforcing fit, which is obviously the best of all. The non-contradictory fit would be McDonald's doesn't go out and advertise that its hamburgers are made of the world's finest grass-fed beef. Why not? Because that's not McDonald's position. They are to be a highly affordable fast food. Grass-fed beef doesn't fit into that as a position. And so they don't go buy it because if they did and they tried to sell it, it would contradict everything about the company. So you don't contradict. So what does McDonald's do? It gets decent quality but relatively expensive beef. And then you get into the upper levels of fit where you reinforce your position. Now let's go back to our Amazon example. And this is one of those very counterintuitive things, the paradox that we introduced in our discussion the other evening. Amazon allows people who are selling different products than Amazon stocks, and in some cases the same product that Amazon stocks, to also be on its website. We all have seen that where you call up a product on Amazon, there are many different retailers and you see some of them are associated with Prime, some aren't. Well, it goes back to Amazon's position. We are going to be the world's leading retailer. And so part of that, online retailer, so part of that means a very broad product category. So in fit the value chain, Amazon had to figure out how to take these companies from outside of Amazon and graft them in to support its position that when you think about buying online, what's the first place you look? Amazon. So there's the position, the trade-off, and the fit. That gets us to a very important concept. We talked about strategy as dynamic, that it's always going back and relooking at conditions, its ongoing analysis, decisions, and actions. So what does it mean when a company changes its strategy? Well, it may mean that the world has changed. That certainly happens. We had a guest speaker here recently, very senior executive at Dell, and he said one of the ways the market changed is when Dell was so incredibly successful, people knew what chips were in their computers. They knew how much RAM they wanted to buy. Some people wanted a lot, some people wanted a little. People wanted to customize their computers. Increasingly, frankly, the quality differentials begin to shrink and people weren't as hooked on the quality of the components. And that completely upset Dell's model. Dell needed a change because of that. So sometimes the world changes. Sometimes the company figures out that its existing strategy isn't working very well. A very painful, great example of that was J.C. Penney, who had to fire the CEO they brought in to save J.C. Penney, Ron Johnson, because some of his retailing strategies just weren't working, and they had to make some dramatic changes to keep the company from quickly plummeting into bankruptcy. So then you say to yourself, okay, what's the price of changing a strategy, and can a company ever change strategies too often? This is where Porter's definition is so important. Remember, position, and then trade-off, and then fit. Companies that are constantly changing their strategies may lose their position in the mind space of the customer. Trade-offs kind of come and go, but it's this fit thing that can kill you. How do you generate fit when your strategy keeps changing? And so we have one of this, another paradox of strategy. Keeping up with changes in the world is a good thing, but it undermines a core part of your strategy, which is a fit. So when is it better to fight with your fit against subtle changes in the world as it is to adapt to them? The next major concept we want to talk about are the two central mindsets to this question of why some firms outperform others. I'm going to switch to a different video, and I'm going to not be in the screen because I'm going to be down using some stock charts to explain the following concepts. Come back and see what I have to say.